Central nervous system. Overview of cranial nerves and cranial nerve nuclei. The cranial nerves are the conduits by which the brain receives information directly from, and controls the functions of, structures which are mainly, but not exclusively, within the head and neck. All but 2 of the 12 pairs of cranial nerves attach to the brainstem. This chapter is therefore an appropriate place to describe their structure and function. The cranial nerves are individually named and numbered, using Roman numerals, in a rostrocaudal. The first cranial nerve, olfactory, terminates directly in cortical and subcortical areas of the frontal and temporal lobes. It is closely associated functionally with the limbic system and is described in that context, page 405. The fibers of the second cranial nerve, optic, pass into the optic chiasma and emerge as the optic tract, which terminates in the lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus. Cranial nerves 3, oculomotor, and 4, trochlear, attach to the midbrain. Cranial nerve 5, trigeminal, attaches to the pons, medial to the middle cerebellar peduncle. Cranial nerve 6, abducens, 7, facial, and 8, vestibulocochlear, attach to the brainstem at, or close to, the junction of the pons with the medulla. Cranial nerves 9, glossopharyngeal, X, vagus, the cranial part of 11, accessory, and 12, hypoglossal, all attach to the medulla. Cranial nerves 3-12, which attach to the brainstem, are associated with a number of cell groupings of varying size, referred to collectively as the cranial nerve nuclei. The nuclei are either the origin of efferent cranial nerve fibers or the site of termination of cranial nerve afferents. They are conveniently considered to be organized into 6 discontinuous, longitudinal cell columns, which correspond to columns that may be identified in the embryo. 3 columns are sensory and 3 are motor in function. The trigeminal sensory nucleus, which extends throughout the length of the brainstem and into the cervical spinal cord, represents a general somatic afferent cell column. Its principal afferents are carried in the trigeminal nerve. General visceral afferents carried by the facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus nerves end in the nucleus solitarius of the medulla. The special visceral afferent column corresponds to the vestibular and cochlear nuclei, which are located beneath the vestibular area of the floor of the fourth ventricle. The general somatic efferent cell column consists of 4 nuclei that lie near the midline and give rise to motor fibers which run in nerves of the same name. From rostral to caudal, these are the oculomotor, trochlear, and abducens nuclei which innervate the extraocular muscles, and the hypoglossal nucleus, which innervates all but one of the muscles of the tongue. The general visceral efferent, or parasympathetic, cell column is made up of the Edinger-Westphal nucleus of the midbrain, salivary nuclei of the pons, and vagal nucleus of the medulla. Cells in the special visceral efferent column innervate muscles derived from the branchial arches, and lie in the trigeminal motor nucleus, the facial nucleus and the nucleus ambiguus.